He's always nice, fun, he's sweet, and I'm like, he's very approachable. He's not, scary up here.
And he just has like the smiliest face on the planet.
He starts smiling and you're like, oh, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's just like a fucking sun comes out.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. I love it.
The best smile.
You can keep that part in the video.
I will,
Tiberius
absolutely.
has the best smile.
Tiberius does absolutely have the best smile. I 100% agree. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the middle of our conversation. So, as you guys may have noticed, in the scheme of recording, this is going to come out on Wednesday, whatever, after the 4th of July. So it is now the Wednesday after the 4th of July.
7th.
So it would be the 8th or the 7th or something like that. And I had some technical issues. So turns out MacBook Airs do not like coffee. While I feel like I maybe should have known that prior to the incident happening, sometimes the world just hates you for 5 minutes and needs to poke you in all the pointy places. So in the same week, I had the battery almost fall out of my car. I had Starbucks try to kill me with almond milk and or coconut milk. I didn't taste it because I would have died. And then my MacBook drank coffee. It was quite the interesting week. So I took another week off. Some of our production timeline got a little screwy. Lord Silenus, Countess, not Duchess, Countess Alice, Gestus, who else? Logan Pathwarden of Ask the Knights. All the people who were super amenable to me just being like, my brain doesn't work, I can't record with you. So I love all of you. Thank you so much for being so amenable to scheduling shifts and rescheduling, and Mistress Colette, whose episode was supposed to air on the 1st, whose episode is now going to air on the day after, whatever the weekend after 4th of July is. Numbers don't matter, but you know what I mean. So it's Wednesday. Mistress Colette will come out on Sunday. You get it. We get it. It's fine.
It all works. So, it's good. It's all right.
It's fine. I just work. Yeah, it's cool. So I have Mistress Mary on, and I'm not going to pretend to say her Welsh name, but that's Mistress Mary. Hi.
It's Welsh. Now you're tonguing it out and spit 3 times. You've got half the language right there.
It's just like all of the consonants ever. It's like my mundane last name.
Yeah.
The Polish with all the Z's.
And they're all pronounced differently.
They're all pronounced differently.
Depends on what the letter is next to, and if it's a full moon that month, then you're standing next to a lady wearing a yellow dress, everything changes.
And if it's the first word or the second word, it really matters. One of the fun stories, sorry, we're gonna tangent real fast.
Great.
I don't actually know if this is true, and I'm not 100% sure where I picked up this information, but I like to believe that it's true. So it is. Somewhere in my education and in my life, I learned that in Poland, if you are of Polish culture, and your last name ends with an A, it means that your family either housed a murderer or an adulterer. Specifically, a female adulterer who was impregnated out of wedlock. So, so somewhere along the line in my family, we either had a murder happen or an adultery happen, and a pregnancy out of wedlock, and that individual changed our last name to end from ending either with an I or a KY to an A. So that's my fun story. I love it. I don't actually know if it's true, but I've known it for so long, and I did do the research, and I did know that it is a fact that in Polish culture, hundreds of years ago. So we're talking early late 1700s.
Okay.
If you were convicted of a crime, which was murder or adultery, because those are the same, obviously. if you were pregnant out of wedlock or murdered somebody, you were the same type of criminal. Of course.
Yep. Makes perfect sense.
Because duh. And yeah, they changed your last name. So the rest of your family forever had to be labeled as you are a criminal, related to this criminal. And so I like to make jokes about it a lot. I'm just like, my family either likes to have sex or likes to kill people.
Possibly both.
Possibly both. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was hundreds of years ago. Who knows? But yeah, that's my one fun fact about my that's the only like mundane, weird history thing that I know about my family. That, and somewhere we have like a deed to part of the Thames River. You should ask my mom about that.
I will have to.
Because it's like a solid little stretch of land that was given to my nana's dad's somebody. And it's like framed in this like house, like whole signed and everything. I thought my mom was lying. She's not. I've seen it. It's really cool.
Well, very cool.
You should definitely ask her about that. Obviously, it's not real anymore. Turns out there's a statute of limitations on deeds. And I guess something from the 1800s no longer, like, we can't like show up and be like, this is my land.
You haven't renewed it, yeah. Stop. Thank you. I tell Echo thank you. It's bad.
It's okay. No, I talked to when I talk to Bigsby, which is the Samsung version of Siri, I say thank you. But I also apologize when I walk into things. So okay, drinking my coffee. I'm a little bit delayed because I slept in for the first time in like quarantine. So it's so funny. I either am such a morning person and I wake up at 6:30 every day, or I sleep until 6 p.m. I don't have a middle.
In between. Yeah.
So like sleeping, I slept until 8:30 today, and that was like a magical feat. So that's a funny thing. Okay, yeah. I have my first question, which is from Brienne. Actually, I lied. That's going to be my second question. First, I would like to know how you got into the SCA.
Okay, so I had heard about the SCA through reading a book. You know, I pretty much live in books, so that's fine. But there's a book by Christopher Stasheff called Escape Velocity. And it's a prequel to his Warlock in Spite of Himself series. And so I read this prequel, and it's this guy who encounters this weird group on Earth that they've decided, since Earth is completely like anti-intellectual, they don't want to learn anything. People are having to have like speakeasy libraries behind bars kind of thing. It's bad. It's all going south. So this group, headed by this really rich guy, has decided to launch themselves into space and colonize a new planet. And the way this group identifies is they're all part of this medieval organization called the SCA. And what they've decided to do is take on their personas and have their brains wiped and land on this planet and just live as their personas, except for the monks, who are the technical crew on the ship, and they're the Order of St. Denis, and their holy symbol is a pocket protector. So I'm reading this book and I'm like, that's really super cool. I wish that was real.
Wait.
And then,
what book is this?
The book itself is called Escape Velocity.
Okay. By
Christopher Stasheff, who was active in either Caid or the West at the time, I believe. And there are others who will tell you his proper SCA name. My brain leaks. But I read the book. I thought it was really super cool. And then I'm looking around online, and lo and behold, I had just moved to Hemet, and there was the Canton of Gala Valley. And I'm like, is that a thing? Type the thing and send an email off to the Seneschal, Paganus Grimlove. Paganus. And he says, great, hey, let's talk. So I went and met Paganus, and we're talking, and he's like, oh, you like to talk in front of people and perform? And I'm like, yeah, I really can't help it. I've worked for Disney. It's a thing. And he's like, great, we need a herald. And I'm like, what's a herald? It's a person who talks loud and says stuff. And I'm like, I can do that. So before I've ever been to an event, okay, before I've done anything except read a book and look at about 3 lines of text on a web page, I've been Tom Sawyered into being the herald for the Canton of Gala Valley by Paganus Grimlow.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was 22 years ago. My first event ever was St. Corrigan's.
That's a good one.
In August. Coral was 8 months old. No, let's see, August. Yeah, it would have been 8 or 9 months old because she would have turned 1 that November. Yeah.
When's your daughter's
Haven't
birthday?
looked back. November 4th.
No fun.
Yeah.
I'm the 6th.
Oh, Scorpios for the win.
My mom's the 9th. I don't recommend it. 2 Scorpios? No. Too many Scorpios.
Okay. Dating a Scorpio, child is a Scorpio. That's a pretty good mix. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm like, whatever, guys. Do what you're going to do.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to figure it out.
Have I ever told you the funny story of like how Brienne and I are secretly just recreating my parents' past? So my parents are 3 years apart. Brandon and I are 3 years apart. My mom is a Scorpio and my dad's a Virgo. Brandon is a Virgo and I'm a Scorpio. My dad was born in the year of the monkey. My mom, the year of the pig. Brandon was born in the year of the monkey. I was born in the year of the pig.
Hey, that's why we get along. We're both pigs.
That's hilarious. I love it.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. No, I'm about it. Interrupt all you want. They were dating for 5 years before they got married. Before they got married. And Brandon and I are hitting the end of our 4th year. And we're not married yet, so who knows? That's the last thing.
Wow.
It's weird.
There are a great many synchronicities there.
It's weird. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it, but it's like one of those like weird spooky things where it's just like life is just recreating. I'm always about history repeats itself, and it's sort of a gloomy thought process sometimes, but this time it's kind of fun. My parents are like the only parents that I know that are still together 30 years in.
It's not as common.
It's not. They were the only, like growing up, I was the only person who had married parents or who like married from the first marriage parents. Cause like I had lots of friends who had like step parents, but they still went for through a divorce. So, I mean, there's that.
Positive thing. My parents are going on, they're over 60 years married now.
That's so cool. Holy crap.
And
it's original parent?
Yep. Both original, like they're still in the box. I mean, they're like a vintage set, you know.
That's amazing. You know what, Mary? I just pictured like your parents as like the most pristine, like cookie cutter house type humans. But that's what I'm picturing. That's what I'm picturing. It's just like everything is in order and in perfect place. And like I expect your mom to like talk with a very calm voice and like sort of soft like this. That's how I picture your parents, just so you know.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. No. Okay, so I grew up on a ranch out in the middle of nowhere. Palomar Mountain, Warner Springs. So it's not the edge of the earth, but you can see it from there. Part of my life spent, you know, where my bedroom was a camper, you know. And when you live on a ranch, when you live in the mountains, everything's dirty. I mean, you can clean and you can clean and you can clean and it's never clean. My mother is a PhD in linguistics. She got her PhD over the wishes of my father, who did not think she does. Silly damn degree, why do you need that? And she got it anyway because it's my mother. My father is a JD, Doctor of Jurisprudence. And he practiced law for a while and went, I don't like this. That's stupid. Because he was doing family law. And it was just a bunch of people fighting and hating each other. And it just made him miserable. So he's like, nope, not doing that anymore. Sold the law practice. Took us all on a trip around the United States when I was like 5. For a year, we just left. And then came back and decided to be a farmer. Did that for a while and went, there's no money in this. I don't like that either. So he uses the ranch for a tax write-off and invests does financial stuff. And the weird part is, I mean, I have really long generations. So my parents were born in 1937 and 1938.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your parents were older when they had you.
Yes, I was the third. My oldest sister is 12 years older than I am.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's a lot.
So there's a really big gap there. And our family is very long lived with long generations. So
Mm-hmm.
all of my aunts and uncles were like World War II vets.
Oh, my goodness.
Right.
And
My
Mary,
father
like,
would have
that's
been
crazy to
Vietnam if he
me.
didn't have allergies.
Yep.
You know.
Okay. My
So,
papa was the same.
yeah. So if you think of my parents a lot like your grandparents, but they're my,
No, that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
That's that tracks with the generational spacing. Because
yeah,
like if I'm only a couple years older than your daughter,
that makes sense. Yeah.
it makes sense. But like it's so funny to say things like your aunts and uncles were were World War vets
World War
because
II.
World War II vets, and my my parent, like, so you had long generation gaps. I have really short generation gaps. So like on my dad's side, like that is the same sort of thing where my dad's aunts and uncles would have been in the same, like born in the late 30s, early 40s to mid 40s type thing. But like my nana, my mom's mom and dad were 17 when my mom was born. And then my uncle was 15 when I was born. And
Okay.
or 13 when I was born. Between something like that. And so our generations all crossed over. And it's so funny because we've been talking in the house a lot about the generational squish that we're having. Because my niece, who is 18 months, is the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And like in our friend circle, because obviously there's already
Right.
lots of babies out in the world, but like Harmony is the me of my friend group, because I was the first baby in my parents' friend group 20 something years ago, and now we're starting over. And it's very interesting watching all of the people who are my age in our friend group interact with the baby, and how different everybody comes at him or at her. And my mom and I were talking about how we never didn't have kids in our lives. So like for you had a big age gap. So you probably there were probably times where like your sisters or your sister, I don't know, is it a sister and a brother or two sisters?
Two sisters.
Two
Two
sisters.
sisters.
So like they're theoretically, like your oldest sister was 12 when you were born, which would have made that age gap really hard to cover.
Okay, you ready? I'm just going to
Yeah,
interrupt with a story. What I used
I'm
to do to
ready.
my oldest sister. She's about 16, so she's old enough to take me to the mall to go shopping, and I'm like 4. And Annie, she has this wonderful face where when she like 16, 17, she's pretty much looked the same since then. She just looks a certain age. And so we would go to the mall and she would say, and people would say, "Oh, your daughter's so cute," because I was, of course, an adorable child. I don't know what happened, but there it is. And she would go, "That's not my daughter." And I would look at her and I would say, "Mommy, you said you wouldn't say that anymore."
How cruel of you. Oh my goodness.
Our
That's
family has a horrible sense
hilarious. I'd love that. Oh my goodness. So we talked a lot about how when you were interacting with small children, it really comes from how you grew up interacting with other kids. And if so Brienne and his two sisters, Brienne is the middle child.
Okay.
So he has a lot of the like middle child things when you come to, like, if you're looking at it in like in the eyes of a teacher, he's got the middle child things.
Yeah.
And because he is the only one that is his age, so all of the cousins are Kieran's age or Emily's age or younger. And so Brandon is the only one that is his age. And so him and Kieran are really close. So they're only 2 years apart. But because they were so close, they didn't really experience each other as kids. They just grew up together.
Yeah.
And whereas like so there's 8 years between me and my older brother, and then 5 years between me and the twins. And I always bonded with my older brother because he's a half brother, so he was only around on the weekends. And I was raised with adults, so it was just like another adult. So I immediately bonded with him, and it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a weird thing. It was just like, oh, he's just like another adult that comes over to our house on the weekends.
Right.
Whereas with the kids, I saw them as kids. Because I mean, like, I was 5, and my mom brought home twin babies, so I had to learn. I had to learn how to, like, what to do with a baby that was screaming at 5, because like. Twins, yo. That's what you got to do. You do what you got to do, and that's just how it goes. So my generation gap, it's really funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like growing up, I felt like the 8-year gap between me and my older brother was way easier to close than that 5-year gap between me and my younger siblings, because I looked at them as my younger siblings.
Right.
And I experienced the baby experience. It's really crazy coming in. But this is a whole ass tangent. What does Helga call it? Soapbox?
Yeah.
Soapbox. Soapbox.
Just go down. My students used to tease me. They'd say, okay, how can we get Mrs. Kryler to chase rabbits today? Because that's what we would call it. They call it chasing. Oh, if they could get me chasing enough rabbits, they'd miss out on a whole period of lecture. It was great.
Oh, darn. Those are the best teachers, though. I love.
And I'd look at them and go, "Am I going to let you Am I going to let you let this rabbit out?
Oh yeah.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
I go, no rabbits today. We got to get this done." And they'd be like, "Okay, that's fair."
Okay, so now that we have come out of our rabbit hole of generational gaps and children things, even though I don't think I made my point over, like, it's really cool to watch adults interact with children who have never done it before.
And they're not quite sure what to do with them. They're like,
no, okay. They're not. And it's amazing.
Yeah, they're like,
am I going to hurt it?
It's really entertaining.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love it, but they're still doing it anyways, because even though they're just like, I might hurt it or I'm awkward, they understand that they need to participate in its life for things to flourish. So yeah, that was my point, is participate in children's lives. Don't be shitty.
Absolutely.
I learned. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was saying my children are better for having been in the SCA, because half the time, even though everybody knew I was the buck, where the buck stopped, like, and I would kill my children for them, mm-hmm. They were always really good about, "You're Mary's kid. Wait a minute," and they would redirect or send them back to me, or, whatever.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the same thing I had.
Yeah. You grow up and there's like your parent and 557 aunts and uncles all going, "What are you doing?
Why are you sleeping in the grass? Do you have sunscreen
Get up over there.
Yep.
Don't eat that.
Be in the shade.
Right.
Drink water."
Yep. So yeah, my kids all grew up with that, everybody must be family, because everybody is telling you what I'm supposed to be doing.
And I love that. And I think that is my favorite part about SEA things. So it's really funny. I have a gift with children. I have Auntie Rosie boobies, and Auntie Rosie boobies are the best for sleeping on. Especially if you think that your child does not like naps. So I say this thinking of Scala and Sita's son, who did not like naps. And during the first reign is when we discovered magic sleeping bodiness, because Roman would have been 4?
Yes. During the first reign, he was 4.
During the first reign. And so when we were doing nap time, like, it would be really funny, because they would be at court and I would have just like vanished, and I would have both of the kids sleeping on me. And Carol is just like, "Why?" Or Sita is just like, "How do you do this? Why won't they do this for me at home?" And I'm like, "Well, because you're mom, obviously."
My grandmother could always do that. My son would
Yeah.
be screaming blue murder, like he would miserable, and she'd be, "Give me that boy," because she's from Glenwood, Alabama. So give me that boy, and I'd hand him over, and she'd put him on her lap, and she'd go bounce, 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 and he'd pass out. And I'm like, "Grandma, you just bounced him 3 times, and he passed out." And I'm like, she's like, "Yes, that's just what you do." Okay, grandmother.
Yeah, no, I don't
The
know what
magic.
it is. I just have the touch. And another one was Winter, uh, Countess Honora and Count Heinrich, their daughter, their was at Great West, and I was super excited, and I got to like play with her during court, and then she started screaming, and Anara was just like, "Oh, I'll take her. It's okay. Like, if you don't want to take her," and I'm like, "That's cool. I'm gonna go sit on that hay bale, and she's gonna be asleep," and she was, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And
My entire job as Chamberlain for Conrad and Aisha was because there were 3 of us Chamberlains, and I was the baby Chamberlain. I'd be
Yep.
like, "Babies," and we would go for walks, and I would sing, and we would walk, and then they would pass out. It was great.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You just gotta find your aunties and uncles. It's really cool. I like being what did they start calling me? I think it was Nico or maybe Cassandra. Uh, is that her name? The redhead? I can never remember. I think it's Cassandra. She's a baroness now. Not Duchess Cassandra.
Right.
From Altavia of the Flaxen Abbey. Is it Cassandra? I don't remember.
Yes, Sandra. Yes.
Yes. Names. I'm remembering their SCA names. I'm so proud of myself.
It's so hard with Facebook. All you see is mundane names.
And I haven't seen you guys in 150 days. So it's a lot. It's hard to remember.
It's weird because it's like you don't think about it. You're like, "Oh, I'm just going to go hang out for the weekend." And then I'm like, "But wait a minute. For at least call it 25 weekends out of a year. How many weekends are there in a year?"
52.
52. So like, yeah. So at least 25 weekends out of the year with my schedule, I'm seeing these faces.
Yep.
Even if we don't get a chance to talk, I'm seeing these faces and seeing these people and interacting with them, even with a hi and how. And to go that long gap without seeing all those faces, there's this weird emptiness.
It's like a disassociation.
Yeah. And
where
it's just like, wait, there's a whole space where a world used to be.
Yeah, and it's just gone. It's just gone. Yeah. I have never not been in the SEA for this long before. Even when I was with, like, prior to me dating Brandon, the guy I was dating was a piece of trash and didn't let me have friends. But I still got to go to wars.
Right.
So at least twice or 3 times a year, I got to do things. And I mean, like, the way that I would space it out is that every 12-ish weeks, I would get to go to a thing.
Right.
It's been 12-ish weeks. I've not gotten to go to a thing. It's weird.
It's very strange. And I'm loving, I love the SCA online. It has fed my soul in ways that have needed to be fed.
Good.
Because I've just having those opportunities to at least, like we're doing now, face to face, and it's weird. They're both pretendy fun times. One's pretendy fun times in a park and one's pretendy fun times on a camera.
Yeah.
And it's like my brain goes, I can at least pretend that I'm in the SCA until I get to go to the SCA, and I'm like, wait, there's no logic there.
But it makes sense, because it is. Yeah. It you have to find a way to make it work. And now I've been struggling with burnout pretty bad over the past year. I'm not sure. When did Matt and Carol step down? Was it last July, or did they step up last July?
They stepped up in July. They stepped down in January.
Okay, so since about July.
Yeah.
And it's all really weird, because I'm not one to admit that I'm overwhelmed. Like, literally to a fault. Is I would rather be overwhelmed and having to figure it out while I'm overwhelmed than to not be overwhelmed, or to admit that I can't do it. Right. So Great Western War was a big learning experience for me, because I literally just could not handle it anymore.
Right.
And I entered myself into the pirate protection program and was mostly absconded for the war to certain undisclosed locations that might have included pools, but I don't know, undisclosed locations. And I had the radios taken away from me. I had people who were when I get to that point, I'm not really good at being okay, hold on. Let me just like preface this with I don't know how to sit down. I'm a lot like Larissa in that, where you'll see my arms or my whatever. Mostly you'll probably see Brandon and not me, because I literally just do laps.
I resemble this remark. I understand.
And so to be in a space where I had people forcing me to sit down was weird, super weird. But it was needed because I was at a war where I was miserable. I haven't had a fun time at a Great Western War in a couple of years.
That needs.
And it's not because I don't love Great Western War, because I do. I love working. I love working. Dude, if you've ever have a chance to just like sit at a volunteer shit at Great Western War, do it, because you meet the coolest people. And then sometimes you have people like Duke Ed tell you that there are shower coins. And then send you on wild goose chases across the war to find the shower coins, because I think right now, who has them right now? Is it 3DC? I can't remember. I'd have to ask him. I think 3DC has them right now. You'd have to ask them though. But yes, so I had to sit down and force myself to sit down, and it was super weird. And I still haven't really figured out, what the point of things are. So like, why would I go do a thing where I'm not working? Because then I'm being productive. And so like, weirdly enough, I thought that Crown tournament, when we started fighting in Crown tournaments, I thought those were going to be the hardest for me, because I don't like being given help. I just sort of float in my own little bubble. So the first two crowns we fought in were really weird. The first one we fought in, it was when Alexander won the first time, and it was the gauntlet and then the actual tournament.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one that we fought in. And the next time we fought was Crown Hogs Day, which was traumatic on several different levels.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
And then the third time we fought in Crown, we started to finally figure it out. And it was just like, oh, no, okay. We just need to put you in a bubble where people don't talk to you. And I can do that. I have that skill. So I just sort of turned it into, I'm my fighter's chief lady for the day. Because it's sort of what I'm doing, is I'm always around him. I'm keeping people away from him to keep him in his headspace. And I feed him and give him water, and I do his thing. And once I realized that that is what I was doing, it was way easier for me to accept help, because
then I'm lady and you need other ladies in waiting.
I am delegating.
The group that does it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So once we figured that out, and I started finding the people that I need occasionally during crowns, because once he started winning once he started going past round 2, things started getting scary. Because like, then it's different than any of the tournament. And now he's like getting 6 deep or 8 deep, which in Kaid is a lot. I don't really know how, I know that like the West has like millions of humans. Not really, but like comparatively to our 40, like if we have a list of more than 20 people, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big list.
It's between, usually 20 to 25 is our
Yep,
average.
that's our average.
Yeah. So when you get into, you know, 4th, 5th round, that's pretty solid.
Mhm.
So the other thing you want to look at Brian having for crown is a corner man. Do you know the term?
Like for boxing.
Yes, just
Yeah.
exactly like for boxing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, the issue we don't have that. I think he has that. It depends because
It's going to be that one that each fighter sort of figures out.
I
But
think not. I think Scala, who is not his knight, is that for him. But pretty much when he gets into so when he is doing like a regular tournament, like a regular just any when it's not crown,
Mhm.
he's got like a pack of humans
Right.
that he goes to. But when he is in crown, he has gotten it to a like focused cone, and like there's only 2 people who can enter his cone without like completely derailing him, and neither of them are fighters. So I think that what ended up happening is because of the way that our relationship is like the rest of the time, a lot of the things are I bring people in to handle the stuff. So the new thing that we started doing is I have somebody who's taking, so I'm taking care of him. And then I have somebody taking care of me and somebody making sure that I'm actually taking care of him. Because, I mean, you've met fighters. When they go into fighter brain, it's just a fighter brain.
Yeah.
And so, like, he can't, he just like go, it's like helmet is on, it's on. Corner man, it wouldn't matter if like the king of the world like started talking to him, he would not give 2 shits.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it was like the king that he was trying.
Right. No, he gets very focused. Understood.
Yeah, he gets very focused. But it's been a whole experience. It's been really cool. So speaking of my amazing human, I'm gonna ask one of his questions that he has sent me.
Okay.
How has the SEA helped you develop as a person?
Oh, gravy. Okay. I've gotten a lot more confidence. I tend to be very introverted. Quite frankly, my preferred space is hiding in a book, in a corner, trying not to talk to humans.
Says the Herald.
Yeah, I know, right? But here's what I figured out. You ready? You watch this. One of the best places to hide is right up front and center because people think they know everything and then they don't ask. So I'm in control of the narrative. That's how it works.
I understand. I just think it's funny.
Yeah. But the SCA has done a lot for giving me confidence, for helping me recognize that there are things that I am good at and that I can do. You remember that interruption that I said was going to happen where my dog decides he's got to go potty right now?
I can hear him. It's totally fine.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Did you have more for that?
Huh?
Did you have more for that question?
Well, no, it's thinking about it, it's realizing that there are times in my life where I've had a very low sense of myself, a low self-image. And the SCA and my experiences in Caid have really given me a sense of, no, I do have value. I do have value as a person. I do have skills that people believe in. So when I'm in a new situation where I'm like, I don't know what to do, often I'll sit back and go, all right, I know I can do this. I've run a court with 10 people and they're all going 27 different directions. And I've talked over a crowd of thousands without a microphone, not thousands, hundreds without a microphone. I can do this, you know? So that's what the SCA has done for me, really.
That's incredible. So, in my personal life, I've been struggling with my mental health because quarantine is the worst, and I already was having a hard time before that. So, a lot of my thoughts these days are like, where did X coping mechanism come from, or where did X trauma originate, or blah 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 blah. And a lot of my like so first sentence is my love language and my like affection language is touch. Absolutely. And so to be touch starved is a thing. And like a lot of people hypersexualize that into being like actually doing it, which is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that like literally I don't think that people like me because I cannot physically touch them. And that is a weird that's a weird thought pattern I've recently learned. But I totally do find myself in like outside the SEA situations, like looking for work is my favorite thing to do. And I mean, it's really not, but I love using the SEA to get jobs. I love it. It is absolutely hands down. If you like, here, let me tell you this. Of all of the things that I have done in my life, and all, like I have a bachelor's degree, I have production experience, I have vocal training, I've got all of this shit. But if anything has helped me get work better, like it's the SEA by far. Because you really don't see how much, it's really hard to be in the SEA and see how it's practical and useful outside of it. But like running courts, that's project management, that's delegation, that's teamwork, that's team management. Speaking over hundreds of people, that's vocal training, that's public speaking, that's technically speech giving. Like there's just like so event planning.
Oh yeah.
You don't even need to put that into other words because it's just event planning. Because when you're running an event, you have to go through all the legal stuff that you would have to go through if you're event planning in the mundane world. Because just because we're in the SEA, or just because they're not in the SEA, doesn't mean they don't need food permits or fire permits or health inspections or contracts. There's so much that it can't be applicable to jobs that it's just insane. And I have been chief lady for a couple of years, for at least one reign every year for the past 3 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Goodness gracious, has it been, how old am I? Actually, it might be 4 years. Whatever, doesn't matter. A long time. And it has been a minute. And I have experienced a couple of problems that were not small, that I had to figure out how to deal with. Several times I lost my ears, metaphorically speaking. It's the funniest sentence I think that Larissa has ever said about me. Larissa's my pelican, for those who don't know, was, "Oh, my protege can drive a cart and doesn't have ears." And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but now I do, because in order to be in a space where someone can say, "Oh, they don't have ears," they're not saying, it wasn't a derogatory thing, it was a compliment. It was, I was free and I was trusted to not share whatever information I may or may not have heard. Right. And there was a big fiasco at a place at one of our events. And lots of people were upset and lots of people were hurt, and trying to figure out where the best place to, I have used that story sort of in vagaries, because obviously there are some things that nobody needs to know, to talk about my problem solving skills. Because a really big thing in the overarching world as a whole is, if you can explain to an employer how you took this big problem and dispersed it or solved it, or even if you didn't solve it, even if you just like were able to calm tempers, that is a big trait that people are looking for in employees.
Absolutely.
And it's taken me a long time to accept the fact that this thing I do for fun actually is helping me in the grand scheme of things, because I have not learned. The biggest thing that I've learned from the SEA, and then teaching helped a lot also, was the way I talk to people. I am known to be a little blunt and very direct, and sometimes my tone of voice is not what I think it is.
That's fair.
And I have a problem keeping my tone steady if I think someone is stupid.
Okay.
That is my biggest heart problem. If I'm interacting with someone and they say something that I'm just like, how have you passed the 5th grade? I have a hard time, or I had a hard time keeping my tone polite, because just because someone says something that I find to be offbeat,
Right.
go with that. That doesn't make them stupid, dumb, or offbeat, because there's more. There could be more to that.
There's
so I
more
had to.
going on than we're aware of. Yeah.
Yep. So the SCA has taught me a lot to not monitor, but like be aware of my tone of voice. Mostly because I had a lot of people being like, you need to watch your tone of voice. And I did not understand for a very long time. Like, I just thought people were talking to me like that because I was young. And I didn't, it took me, I think until Larissa and I actually became protege and pelican, before she was, because like she was fostering me for a little bit before that. I think it took getting that belt put on me to be like, oh, that's what you mean. Because that was Kaid 40 year that happened. And again, with a snafu that happened, and and it was a thing where I was just like, I thought it was the most insane incident. Like, it just like, it was silly in my brain. And I was mad. And I was like vocalizing my anger a little bit. And Laura was just like, well, you're right, but why don't you say it differently? And I'm like, why? And she was just like, well, because you're right, like, do you want other people to know that you're right? Because if you're a bitch about it, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So
you can either get what you want or be right. Pick.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So what her and I worked on together was finding ways to politely share our ways, Laura or I, with them. And they could be the right or the wrong ways, but there are ways. And whichever one works best for them is the one that they should do. So Laura and I learned that together, because we both had a little bit of that like rough around the edges situation going. And so she was just like, why don't we try it this way, where we can still be right, but it's their decision. You're giving them the opportunity to do it in a way that is more efficient, potentially. And if they don't want to do it that way, that's fine. Who knows? Maybe they learn a new efficient way. Or maybe they leave things in places they shouldn't. And you have to deal with it.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to pause you for just a second. My dog is barking to be let back in. So
totally
I'll be right back.
Fine. That's perfect timing.
Stupid veils.
They're so... Okay.
There. Okay.
Mary, have you stepped up as both of your peerages already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been a Laurel for a year now.
That's right. Because that was Adam and Stein's step down.
Yes.
I remember. Time is a construct, but it's okay.
It's a useful one.
Yeah, sometimes. So my next question is, so you've been in the SEA for, you said 22 years?
Mm-hmm.
How long were you in the SEA before you became a peer?
15 years.
Okay. And then how long, and then so it's 15 years, that was your Pelican, was your first one. And then you've been a Laurel for a year and a half. So I have 2 questions that are sort of the same.
Okay.
How did the SEA change for you after you became a Pelican?
Mm-hmm.
And did it change again after you became a Laurel?
Ooh, fun questions. How did the SCA change after I became a Pelican? Okay. Okay, the way to phrase this is really weird. But the first time someone walks up to you and looks at your chest and then looks at your face is very strange. And you would think as a girl I would, have experienced that, but not really because I don't, But yeah, the first time someone went, oh. And I'm like, really? So that changed. That was a weird moment. The slow process of recognizing that my words had more weight than I realized. It was sort of recognizing that I do want to make sure, I try to be careful when I say things anyway, but making sure that when I say something, it is necessary, I am kind, all of those things, because my words have weight that I'm not used to them having. So for me, that first question, how did the STA change when I became a Pelican? A lot of things didn't change other than I went, oh, shoot, they gave me a thing. I better work hard to earn it. Because imposter syndrome is very real. And my first thought upon receiving my Pelican was, they gave this to me because I'm a nice person. I really need to actually do something useful. And then your brain goes where your brain goes, kiddo. And so I'm like, okay, I better work harder. And I find myself doing something very similar. They gave me a Laurel and I'm like, I better actually do an art now. And I know that's not true.
Going to Spain was totally not part of your art whatsoever.
Going on pilgrimage was totally not something that I also did on purpose so that I could do research.
You didn't take, how long did you walk? Forever?
It was 2 weeks.
It was a long time.
2 weeks.
Walking.
From Oviedo to Santiago de Compostela. Except for the one day I took a taxi because my hip was like, you're done now.
Well, for 2 weeks minus one taxi ride, Mistress Mary walked through Spain. Just because she's cool. And honestly, it was the most magical experience from stateside because you would post about it. And each day you would post like a recap on Facebook. Or I mean, it wasn't each day, but it was like occasionally. It was enough where I felt like I was with you. And you would post these amazing photos and tell the story of like what happened that day and all this other stuff. And then I got to see the full results at the end, which was just magic. And it was so cool it's so cool to talk to you about that. And like we could go through a whole episode just talking about your pilgrimage, which we might.
I will happily geek out about pilgrimage and Santiago de Compostela and the northern Spain. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm all about it because I'm definitely trying to showcase more art, and I definitely know that you have a beautifully stamped, God, what was it called?
Passport.
Yeah.
It's called the passport. Yeah, because each time you stop, in order to verify that you actually walked the Compostela to get your sheet from the office, you have to show the passport stamps to indicate that you traveled the requisite amount of distance.
Yep.
Also, I just found out recently, speaking of art things, so I read a PhD paper on frame drums in Spain in the Middle Ages. And there's a drum, it's a 13th century drum, it's square, and it's got membranes on both sides. It's called an aduf. And they still make them in Portugal. And I ordered one, and it's on the way, Okay, I'm good now.
Oh my God, you're so cute. I love it. But also, you made a piece of garb for Brandon.
Yes, I have the second half still to finish, but it's right here.
Look at it, so pretty. Look at it.
So I've got to finish the outer portion, but yeah.
It's not finished, and it's still gorgeous as fuck. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was really fun. It was all of it was really amazing. But we will talk about your Laurel stuff on a different episode.
Okay.
My next question is the concept of peer-like qualities. I've been seeing a lot talked about recently. The world is on fire.
Truth.
Figuratively and literally, unless the Mount Charleston fire is no longer on. Hopefully it's not a problem. I need that so much. Oh my God. Mary, where did
Theo.
Oh, I need it.
3D prints them in exchange for a donation, because then he 3D prints PPE stuff.
Yeah.
And helps pay for the PPE stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna buy 4.
Yeah, talk to Master Theo.
Master Theo is also just like the most adorable human on the planet. I love him so much.
He really is.
He gave me one of those. So I was talking. We were at was it West Frontier? Whatever. We were somewhere, and I had a coat that I couldn't clasp. And I was talking about how I needed a pin, and Master Theo lent me one of those, like the 3-pronged ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're called, but the the brass ones.
Right.
And he was just like, "Oh, you can casually just told Brandon I could have it." And I tried to give it back to Theo, and I'm like, "No, I'm not just you made this. I'm not taking it from you. It's yours." But he wouldn't take it back.
He's pretty awesome that way.
He was so nice. I was so awkward about it. And then he told me that if I wanted to, we geeked out over brooches, because I was at West Frontier and I saw the animal head ones.
Those are cool.
And then we fell down a rabbit hole at Ursula's house, talking about animal head brooches versus like the flat ones, because I have 2 sets of brooches. Some of them are this big, like literally, like
right.
this big. And then the other ones that I have are like this big. And I'm just like, so I have these giant things which get caught on stuff every time, or little itty bitty ones that look a little bit too much like nipples. So I went to West Frontier, and I now have like oblong ones that were now I have like the most gorgeous period festoon set. It has like the either amber festoons with rose quartz and coral and lava rock, and I have like a horse head dangly things. All of these have like real word terms that I just don't know. But I'm sure that all of you know what I mean by little dangly things, the festoon. Yes. We all do it. We all get it. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah.
I think bling, it's a thing.
It is a thing. Well, again, rabbit hole, back to original topic. We're talking about peer-like qualities and how it is being discussed a lot across the virtual SCA. There is a whole lot of controversy, and the world is sort of starting to come to realize that people of color and intersections and other communities of the sort have sort of been treated like shit, and we just didn't talk about it a lot. So in light of these new things, all of these things that are being discussed that are not new, they're just actually being talked about now, what are peer-like qualities, at least for you?
For me, when I think about the qualities that make somebody appear, there's 2 sets of thought process I go through. Whenever there's any kind of conversation about somebody's peer-like qualities, whatever, there's always there's an age-old sort of definition that I got from A.O. and Amber Drake, who the rule is she's always right. If you go by that, it's a good rule to go by, because you won't go wrong. But she's like, and she got it from Baldwin of Erebor, I think. But the basic premise is there's the work you do, And there's the cleanup that has to happen afterward. The emotional cleanup that has to, I don't know if you've ever met someone where they do all sorts of things. And then you have to go back in and undo the damage they've done.
I will respond to that when we are not recording.
Yeah. So you've encountered those people and you've encountered those moments. So first thing that I often think about when I think about somebody's pure-like qualities is, how much cleanup do people have to do following behind this person? You know? But the other thing I think about is I think of the oath of fealty, because I take the oath every reign. And I swear, here do I swear by mouth and hand, to the crown and kingdom of Caid, to speak and to be silent, to know when to say something and when it's more important not to do and to let be. When do I need to act? When do I need to fix it? When do I need to step back and let someone else do what needs to be done? To come and to go. Where do I come in? Where do I make myself present? Where do I go forth as a representative instead? To serve and to teach. Okay. So sometimes to be up front, to be alongside, do it my way, or serve. I don't have to have it done my way. I need to have it done. When I think of those traits in balance like that, that helps define pure-like qualities for me. Are they capable of speaking when necessary and shutting up when necessary? Do they do what needs to be done? Do they let it go? You know, when they are present, coming and going, what is their demeanor? What are they like? Do they both serve in the background, not having to be the middle of things, and teach? Are they up front, leading and instructing in a way that other people want to follow? Does that make sense?
That's actually the most incredible description of pure-like qualities that I have ever. So I love that. I love everything about that. My brain is very analytical. I'd like to have labels. I like to have structures. I like to put things in their fucking boxes and leave them there.
Mm-hmm.
Pure-like qualities has been this amorphous sort of blob where, like, have you ever seen those pictures where it's like a bunch of words and like a text that's like this big, and like some of the words, some of the words are bigger and smaller. That's how I feel about pure-like qualities, and it like stresses me out because I don't know where to put it. But that makes so much sense, is to put it on a scale. Is when a human or when a whatever is doing the thing, how much work do I have to do after the thing is done? That is magical.
Mm-hmm.
And putting it in those terms and framing it in that light makes so much sense, at least in the path that I'm on to become which is of service.
Mm-hmm.
Because are the peerage oaths different?
Nope.
Okay.
During coronation, the royal oath is slightly different because they alone have worn the crown.
Right.
And the mods and knights, instead of saying to serve and to teach, they say to strike and to spare.
But it's the same principle.
Yeah. But everything else is identical. And when they do the general, give an oath and there's a group of us,
mm-hmm.
Everybody uses the same oath.
Sweet. So that is, at least for my path, it makes sense, because it was always hard to, I looked at it as, how do you measure service? At what point is your service good enough? And it's not inherently about your service being good enough, because anybody who puts in their time to do the thing, I love them. Yeah. I love them, because volunteers are volunteers, and this is a volunteer organization, and people don't say thank you enough. So I don't want to say that those people who do serve it, who do service,
who do the thing,
but don't have the thing, like that does not denigrate from the service that they do. And I appreciate all of them. And I have definitely experienced time where I have received help that was very exciting for the helper, and I was very pleased and very happy to allow them to help. However, I had to help them be helpful in a very involved way.
Yeah. It's like when I put up my tent, I can put it up in 15 minutes by myself or 30 minutes with help.
With help. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And something that was really, that still is really hard for me is to allow that extra time for the help. And I'm pretty quick on my feet, not like physically, but like mentally.
Right.
So I solve things pretty quickly, and I'm really like, this is a problem, let's fix it right now. Like, let's do this immediately. So I have learned that sometimes what I think is immediate and what other people think is immediate are very different.
People operate on time scales. Yep.
And I have learned that I need to be very specific with the timing phrases and with what I'm looking for. And I have also learned that in Chief Lady Dim that the best thing to do is to ask for small things, ask lots of people for one small thing. That way, lots of people help and are involved and are getting the opportunity to be up front and center, or getting the opportunity to go talk to random people or to be seen with the queen. That the thing usually gets done. Whereas instead of asking one person to, so for example, Brandon and I were chief lady and captain of the guard for Sita and Wilhelm, their last reign.
Right.
We are a couple. That being said, I'm really bossy, and I have a really hard time not just doing everything. So Brandon and I had to have a sit-down conversation and discuss very specifically which things we were allowed to do together, or like which things we were responsible for. So pretty much Brandon and the guard was physical stuff. If something physical needs to happen, like the tents get put up, the thrones get moved, tables get set up, like all the things. And my job was to make it look good and to make sure that everybody was taken care of. So basically, I was the people, he was the stuff. That is how that is how we determined it. And if there was a problem with the stuff, we taught our court members to go to Brandon. If there was a problem with the people, to come to me. Right. And that last time was the first time we had everything sort of just go, and it just worked. And I got out of my own way, and I got out of Brandon's way, which is totally a thing that has happened, where I like want to keep problems away from him so that he can still have fun, but then I don't have fun.
Right. So, and then he doesn't have fun because you're not having fun.
He doesn't have fun because I'm not having fun. Exactly. So we shifted some things around, and everything sort of worked out, and it was super nice. Delegation.
When you get systems in place that work like that, where you sit there and you take the time to establish what are my what are my processes going to be? What are my systems going to be?
Yeah.
It's amazing how much smoother things go. When I finally learned that as a teacher and then started applying it everywhere, it was amazing.
Mind blown. Yeah. It's also really good when you have, so I think I've secretly decided that this is that the secret premise of this show is to just tell everybody how amazing Scala and Zeta are.
That's
'Cause
I think that's an excellent premise for a show. I
I
approve this.
agree. I
They're-
agree.
they're-
That's my message. Because I talk about one or both of them every single time, and I even wear my my Signum Regina. So it's also really helpful when you are friends with the king and queen. So that it helps, but also hurts, because I definitely was told this last reign that I was way too friendly with the prince and princess, which I was mad about at first.
I remember.
But then I understood, because like some people didn't understand that Matt Jepson and I talk every day, but I don't talk to the king every day. And so I had to get that out of my own head. But
Right.
boy, was I irritated at first. So that's super cool. I never thought about it in a never thought about peer-like qualities as a sliding scale or like a balancing scale. That's so cool.
It's a balancing act. When Eowyn first said that to me, it was like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
really helps. Because then you have that person who works really hard and you respect that and you love that. And then you go, okay, sweetie pumpkin, come here. Let me help you not have so much cleanup afterward.
Yes. Let's soften the blows.
Right.
I totally understand. That's crazy. That's awesome though.
That was huge to learn. And I didn't learn it until after I became a peer.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about someone in council and Eowyn gave this example and I went,
oh, I get it. It's like ding, ding, ding. It's weird the things that click. Like, so Larissa and I have talked about PLQs a lot. And as you know, her and I are very similar in our interpersonal relationships, especially in the SEA. But when we talk about it, it's still just sort of this like amorphous blob that sort of ends with, I'll tell you if you're doing something that isn't. And I'm like, well, that's very helpful, but also like, what is it? So I like, don't do that. But there isn't, but it's not like, it's sort of like, I want there to be, oh, what's that? So I'm not religious. What's that Bible stuff where the 10 Commandments?
It's a checklist.
I want there to be 10 commandments of PLQs.
Right.
Or however many commandments of PLQs. Because that would make sense. And then I could understand it. But that's not the point. You're not supposed to understand it, because if you understand it, everybody would do it. Right?
In some ways. Think of it more like it's not like the 10 Commandments, it's more like the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay. That's fair.
Where, when you tell me, blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, and the meek shall inherit the earth, or blessed are the meek, and blessed are the poor in spirit, I can understand those words. Those are not easy to do.
No, they're not. They're just the things.
10 Commandments are really pretty direct. Try not to kill anyone today, please.
Yeah.
No, you can't take your neighbor's things.
Yeah, stealing is bad.
Feeling bad. You know what? Take a day off.
Maybe one.
Only one. Take too many off.
One.
That's no good. Right.
Yeah,
but so
no.
I think when you think of PLQs, if you think of more like the Sermon on the Mount, where it's like, I understand the words you're using. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's way more theoretical and hard to put into practice rather than like, don't murder. That's pretty easy to put into practice. That's hilarious. Well, on that note, on me still not knowing how the Bible works quite yet, but understanding some things.
It's all good.
Mary, thank you so much for coming on with me.
My pleasure.
This was so good. I am very excited to get back into the thing. And once I get through this next, this big crunch of recordings for the next couple weeks, I would love to have you back on to talk about Laurel-y stuff.
I would love that.
I know that later on this month, are you participating in the Summer Arts / Starkov and Collegium situation?
Yes, I
Okay.
am teaching and running a Bardic in the afternoon. So
Phenomenal. So I will try to schedule something after that. And I would love to have, basically, I would like to see your pentathlon project that you did for the Spanish pilgrimage.
for the pilgrimage. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, I did.
I just want to see your
I can do
stuff, and I want to talk about it, and I want you to show off all the beautiful things that you do.
Excellent. And I'm super excited. Mid-July, they're doing an online Colegio de Iberia.
Mhm.
So they're doing a whole like 2-day collegium all on just Spanish Iberian stuff. And I'm
That's
like,
amazing. Do you
so
have
excited.
do you have links to that? Because I can put them in this episode.
I will, yes, I will send you, do you want me to message them?
Yeah.
All right, I will message you the links to the Colegio de Iberia.
Fantastic.
I'm
And
super
so
excited if that's happening.
I will put that in the comment in the links below. So right now on the screen, you should see the thing that Mary just talked about. And afterwards, you'll see the links for the Drybergen Summer Art stuff so that you can see all of their wonderful classes. And they're trying to put together a photo display of all the entries that will be live on their website the day of. And it should be really fun. I've been watching people sort of build it from the ground up, from the background, and I am gonna push it as far as I can, because the best part about having events like this online is that your classes are never gonna only have one person.
Exactly.
Because
and it's been really,
yeah.
Halbrust and Jerusha have done amazing work putting all this
Jerusha's
together.
Halbrust and Jerusha are magical humans. It was really funny. So
Halbrust is the most fun archmage ever.
Oh my god, he's the best. So there's a quick anecdote before we go.
Okay.
Last night in recording time, there was a Drybergen Summer Arts / Starkhofen Summer Collegium internet Zoom meeting.
Right.
And I created one of the Google forms that they're using for like the entries and stuff. And my mom comes in, she's just like, I don't understand how Google works. I'm like, okay. And then like Jerusha sent me a message and it's just like, can you add me to this and I'll just take it over? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Fucking please. And so Jerusha now took it over and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't have to do it anymore. I'm so happy. Because
no, when she moved to Starkov and Kaid won, like, oh nope. That's
Jerusha's
a win for Kaid.
amazing. No, she's a magical human being. I've never
really,
I've met, I don't know if I've ever met her like directly, but boy oh boy does everybody talk so highly of them that I already love them. I already love them. I'm about it. We're gonna I think that after Summer Collegium gets figured out, I think I was talking to Ducky about getting Jerusha on, but I had not gotten there yet because I'm pretty booked until the middle of July. So later I will have to do that
because
Jerusha, I hear, is a magical human. I am all about it. Well, on that note, we started with Tiberius's smile being contagious. We're going to end with Jerusha being a wonderful human. Thank you, everybody, for listening and being so patient with me and my technical difficulties. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Bye!
Love you bunches. Bye, bye, bye.